15 of the 16 MLS teams advanced in the U.S. Open Cup. Massively disappointed, New York City FC, although they are now gearing up to see if they can earn their third consecutive clean sheet in Major League Soccer. We've got a report from training in Orangeburg today and a whole lot more for you on NYCFC Views Live.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy. Tiene tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer!
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Hello. I'm Glenn Crooks. There's Roberto Abramowitz. And yes, we are getting ready for a game against Montreal on Saturday, tomorrow, on the New York City FC network. We'll be at Yankee Stadium. And but first, we've got to talk about this U.S. Open Cup a little bit before we hit the preview of Montreal. Things at MLS have been going pretty well. 3 wins in our last 4, but then, and that is kind of a harrowing statistic. Only one MLS team didn't advance, and look,
1 out of 15, 1 out of 16,
1 out of 16, and Pascal Jansen has not he has not hid his disappointment and perhaps his dismay, and he has his 24-hour rule. You're allowed to be a little ticked off and upset by it for that 24-hour period. I know that's his motto. I remember when the game ended, I looked at the clock and I said, all right, what's 24 hours? When will Pascal now move on from this and the rest of the team? But it was obviously disappointing. You lose to a USL Championship team, a team that hadn't been really in good form. Granted, it's on the road, it's on the turf, things like that. A bit of rotation where some players who hadn't played got their opportunity, but you would have hoped that maybe they would have done more with that opportunity in some cases. But anyway, I don't know. What was your assessment, Roberto? 1-0 the loss.
They came in to play a team that had lost 3 in a row. They're not a great USL team. New York City had, 6 changes, which means that there were 5 players who had played in the game previous, which is a very, very good win against Cincinnati. And I guess my biggest take of all of this, first of all, New York City's had some really harrowing luck and maybe performances in the U.S. Open Cup. I don't know how to explain this, all right? But it's like historic. The losses to the Cosmos twice. Getting smoked at Red Bull Arena in one of the games. These are the ones that I remember. These are the ones that stand out. This is going to stand out as well.
I don't remember much about the U.S. Open Cup and New York City FC. And it's interesting that the 2 team had the greatest success in terms of how deep they got into the tournament last year.
Yeah, they did.
Kind of that sort of experience. But remember what I said? I said it 2 weeks ago, and I believe my exact quote. We're not going to roll back the tape because I'm not prepared to do that. But I told you Bob Lilly's a good coach at Pittsburgh.
Oh yes.
And I said this is a 1-goal game. It has it written all over it.
You said he knows how to win 1-0 games.
Yeah.
Or 1-0, as you say. But and you were dead on. You were absolutely dead on. So I think my biggest take out of this is the disappointment in players that got a chance to prove that they need more minutes and that they prove for themselves and for the team, that I'm not going to say that they belong because they belong, but that they deserve more. And here was their opportunity to raise their hand and to show the coach and show the rest of their teammates and show the fans why they deserve more minutes. and you look at the team and tell me who wasn't playing, actually met the moment.
I can't say. Tanasiewicz gets red carded. The first yellow was ridiculous because there was a cover defender there, and then if he had only been yellow carded, he was either way he was gone. I know Dogso was called. It was a straight red, which was the proper call. But so that's disappointing. Burke Reese, Pascal said today, it's something I asked him before I pressed record on our pregame show, but I wondered what the Burke Reese thing was a mystery. He was gone at halftime. And Pascal said he had actually hurt himself really early in the game and just kind of played through it until halftime, and they brought him down. Another soft tissue injury for Burke Reese. Not sure to what extent, but he's not going to be available on the weekend. And then there's Mounsef Bakrar in for Alonso Martinez. Agustin Ojeda, he has started games before, but this was an opportunity for him. And I'm trying to think who else we might be. Tavon Gray started in his normal spot. Nico Cavallo, rookie. Nico Cavallo is the second choice left back. And so I would imagine you're talking about Tanasiewicz and Mounsef Bakrar more than
and Risa, right? Those are the guys. Ojeda as well. Ojeda hasn't, started many games this season. Here's a chance for him to shine against a team that, isn't, that he should be able to dominate. And yet, so far, no go. Ojeda, 11 games, 4 starts so far this season. Yeah. So, I want to see these guys really step up, take the bull by the horns, and make life difficult in a good way for Pascal Jansen on how, who's playing on Sunday evening or Saturday evenings.
So I was supposed to talk to Johnny Shore today, Roberto, and it got delayed until Monday because a last-minute set-piece meeting, or somewhere along the way the schedule changed, and there was a set-piece meeting when I was going to be speaking to him.
Oh, okay.
And it turns out the set-piece meeting was right before I talked to Pascal Jansen. We're going to play our first clip here with Pascal from my conversation with him, because it was really just in the room next door where they were, and then he came out and then came over. So the goal conceded against Pittsburgh, is in the 6th minute of stoppage time, and it's off a corner, and it's in essence a free header. Mounsef Bakrar was in the area. Tavon Gray was in the area. I didn't ask for clarity as to who was responsible, but the word he used was discipline. So here's Pascal talking about defending corner kicks, because the second phase has also hurt New York City FC. They've given up a number of corner kick goals this year. So here he is.
It was a moment where the discipline was off. It's about details and mentality. And those two were not at the right level on Wednesday. If you can see the corner, and it's going to be an out-swinging corner. You have to be aware that the positions have to adapt just slightly. But then again, it starts with the mentality. Making sure that the first touch is always made by a player of New York.
God, we've always said that as coaches. You've got to get the first piece of the ball, man. And that is the mentality piece. But also interesting, I didn't even think of this, the slight adjustment you make, outswinger, inswinger. So you look and see who's taking the corner, and then you adjust. So he's intimating that adjustment didn't apply either on the game winner. So there's a lot in that little 25-second statement.
There really, really is. These are the things that they've got to be able to clean up. Now, of course, it's not the starting team. A lot of the starters were not in and all that. And New York City was defending at that point with 10 because Tanasiewicz was red carded. And it looked like they were about to go to stoppage time, because it was basically like the next to last play, as it turned out. And it's a shame that they wind up getting eliminated in this round. Again, they got eliminated last time the major team played, which was 2023. So they got eliminated in this round as well, although they were in one round earlier and they actually won a game.
All right. And the other piece that Pascal has been emphasizing is more clinical in the finishing. And Julian Fernandez, who was the quote-unquote hero in the previous match. A wonderful goal in the victory on the weekend, and but this time missed a sitter of all sitters. I mean, that was gaping. It was gaping, and he just missed the target with his right foot. I mean,
yeah,
2-footed players are the best finishers, and so it didn't quite happen on that occasion. So now on the bright side, Roberto, we got a chance to peek our head out in the driving rain today at training, and this fairly substantially tall and fit midfielder was out there, Aidan O'Neill. And
yes, he was.
It was his second practice, and Pascal said that he will be in the squad tomorrow. Now, I'll tell you that you couple that he's in the squad with the fact that Keaton Parks will not be in the squad with this foot injury. He's not available tomorrow, so you're losing a midfielder. Burke Reese is not available, so Justin Hack is going to start at the back, and so I think that's certain. So you're really thin in the midfield. So I would think Pereira would start with
Johnny Shore.
And then Maxey. But I think you're going to see Aidan O'Neill make his debut.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. I really think he's going to play tomorrow. I think that anything over 30 minutes might be an upset, but I think he definitely gets 30 minutes. We have to remember that Pereira played a full 90 on turf in Pittsburgh. So, and he played, a lot of minutes also into the second half in the game against Cincinnati. So I think he would probably be the candidate to come out sometime, in the beginning of the second half. So I think that's the way that's going to go. Yeah, even if Burke Reese, by the way, was 100% healthy, I think that Justin Hack stays in the back. I mean, this team has got three shutouts in the last 4 games. I asked Thiago Martins about it in the press conference, and how the team has been settling in and playing much better defensively. So I don't think, you don't mess something that isn't broke. So I don't think you're touching that back line. The other good news is that Micha Ilinic is available to be selected as well. So I expect him to be on the bench too. So that's good news for New York City.
So one of the things I asked Pascal, that is good news, was he made a recent comment about he wants a fluid midfield. So this will include his thoughts about Aidan O'Neill as well. So I asked him, what if he could define what in his mind is a fluid midfield. So here's Pascal.
The way we play, we have several profiles in midfield. Creative one, box to box, the one who can link up with build-up phases and make sure that the team is always in balance. And what I like to see is that the 3 midfield players are in contact with each other throughout the game, throughout the phases, to allow each other to get into different areas. So that's the fluid part. On the other hand, you also have to realize where the qualities of the player are and make sure that they can show their qualities and contribute to the team within their qualities.
And that's very 4-3-3, where the midfielders can rotate into whatever role they need to be. So
Exactly.
is your optimum midfield where all 3 players have qualities where they might be a little better in one area than the other, but they can adjust to all 3?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. That makes you less predictable. As you've seen in our games, we try to get players in several areas, also fullbacks that join into midfield. So you have to be aware of all the spaces in the middle of the pitch and stay comfortable. So that's why I look for these profiles.
And where does Aidan O'Neill, you think, initially fit in terms of the profile of your midfield? What would you say?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because when we had a closer look at Aidan over the past few months, you could see that he is an all-rounder. He's able to play as a connecting player for build-up phases. He has the energy and the stamina to play box-to-box. And he's also very decent in final third areas, preparing shots on goal or preparing the final pass or even scoring goals. So he can play in all 3 roles, and that makes him an all-rounder.
I love that. An all-arounder. Pascal calls him an all-arounder. That's the I don't know. That sounds like has been his phrase for quite a bit, because the 4-3-3, man, that's very Dutch, and the three in the midfield, the rotation. When I learned the 4-3-3 as a coach in the late 90s, the first coach I went to, that's the first thing we talked about, is that rotating midfield, and it makes total sense. It's part of the mobility of the game, and it's nice to know that he can fill any of those roles, because with Parks down, and we don't know how long Keaton will be out, that's going to be significant.
Did you get the feeling that he can't wait to get him onto the field?
I mean, he might start. Pereira did play a lot of minutes, and he's coming off a significant injury, this hernia surgery, which he had a little bit of and he admitted, Pereira a couple of weeks ago said he rushed it back. He got back a little too soon. So I can't imagine they're going to push that too much. So I don't know. Maybe he'll be in the 11. Who knows?
Maybe. I mean, I think I'd be very surprised. I'm not going to say shocked. I'd be very surprised the more I think about it. But I still think it's a second half change.
Yeah, I would predict that too. And we should also mention Kevin O'Toole is still out at left back, so a decision has to be made there. Cavallo, if you play a back four, or you're going to consider the 3-back system. Although with Risa down, I mean, you could go with Tanasiewicz.
Yeah, Tanasiewicz. Coach Pascal today, we're talking about Tanasiewicz, and he said, look, he's been training great. Yeah, he had bad moment by doing that, but, he's been training great. So, I'm not going to kill him for it. Yeah. He's very positive about, the players, that didn't, perform maybe as some would have liked. It's just one of those things. And the reason I talk about it is because I remember back in 2016 and Mixed Diskerud. And I remember that game against the Cosmos that was played at Fordham University. And basically he had given Patrick Vieira had given Mixed Diskerud the captain's armband. There was a couple of other players who were like one playing all the time, but they were giving them their chance. Who was it? The forward scored the first goal at second goal at Yankee Stadium against New England. Why am I blanking on his name now?
Patrick Mullins.
Patrick Mullins, okay. So he had fallen a little bit out of favor as well. And so now here is their big chance. And then they wind up and playing a terrible game, losing 1-0 to the Cosmos after they had lost in penalty kicks and overtime in 2015. And Patrick was just livid after the game that they had lost that game. And we never saw Mixed Diskerud play for New York City again until an exhibition game against Necaxa in Aguascalientes. They never saw him in an MLS game again. That was it. He trained on the side. Sometimes he trained with the team. And that was it. He was exiled. Pascal does not subscribe. It seemingly does not subscribe to any of that. And, I think
his exact words to you. I heard his exact words to you. He said, he basically said, I'm not the kind of coach that buries somebody.
Yeah, so, exactly.
It's, and there's, we've had a lot of discussion about Mounsef Bakrar and how often he's had the opportunities. And Pascal he puts a lot of the emphasis, as Nick Cushing did too, but on training and what you're doing in training. And if you talk to my broadcast partner, Matty Lawrence, it's like, yeah, right. There's a lot of training players that he's played with, over the years. And that's understood that sometimes they just don't get up for the performance. But Mounsef Bakrar, I'm going to reiterate something I've said a lot, is that I don't know what the rate of return that New York City had hoped they would get. I mean, how many goals per game? But he's been like a 1 in 5, if that. And whether the club thought it was going to be 1 in 2 or 1 in 3, he hasn't had that sort of history. And he has just not been the kind of finisher necessary to, take some of the pressure off of Alonso Martinez.
So here it is, right? 11 games, 3 started.
It's official, Roberto. There is no one. Fernando's got that great goal against Cincinnati, but then he misses that. No one has emerged as a support man for Alonso Martinez yet.
No,
No,
only five
not even
players have
close.
scored. Only 5 players have scored goals for New York City so far this season. Only 5 players. Anyway, I want to go through Bakrar's numbers, and then you just make of this what you want. Okay, so he's played 11 games. He has started 3 of them. He's played a total of 284 minutes, which makes it like four and change as far as full games. Still has no goals and no assists so far this season. And since he got to New York City, he has 8 goals in 60 games.
Yeah. He's got 1 shot on goal this year, Roberto. 1 shot on goal in 283 minutes. Now, look, it's not always just on the forward player. It's on the people delivering the ball, either from the back or from the midfield. But this guy is – so he's been clocked. Mounsef Bakrar has been clocked as the 2nd fastest player in Major League Soccer. They record top speeds of players. So through 11 weeks, Mounsef Bakrar is the 2nd fastest player in MLS, but somehow he's not getting behind the defense like Alonso Martinez does.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say. Is like Alonso Martinez, they go route 1 on with him very, very often, and with Bakrar, it just never seems to materialize for whatever reason. I don't know if it's positioning or what it is, but it doesn't materialize. And I don't know if it's his fault or the people around him that aren't getting him the ball when he is in that position. We can't say that. Now, as far as his work rate and his attitude and all the other intangibles that come with being on the field and defending from the front and doing all that, I mean, we know that he excels at those things.
All
but
right,
when you're in number 9,
I don't
got
want
to
to talk
score.
about that anymore. I don't want to talk about what he puts in defensively up top. I don't think we should talk about that anymore. Yeah, we know that. You know what? That's what you're supposed to be doing. And he does his job, in that respect. A striker that doesn't score goals is not a striker. Period. End of story.
Agreed.
End of story.
Agreed.
And somebody's got to come around for Alonso Martinez, or it's going to be a difficult season.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we'll see what happens during the transfer window when it opens up again in July. New York City has over $3.5 million in GAM hanging out there that they can go and fill in some blanks. Now, I want to talk about one other thing, if I can. Give me a second here. Okay, so I spoke with Julian Fernandez today, and that's going to be my pregame show on Spanish radio starting at 7:15 on tomorrow. And I asked Julian about the fact that he played the 10 of the game in Pittsburgh. Right. And I said, so how familiar, are you with that? And he goes, as I was growing up and I was coming through youth soccer, and that's all I played. I played as a number 10. And so this is my comfort zone. This is where I like to be. He says, but when I turned into professional, there wasn't room for me to play. So they put me on the right wing. And so I had to start developing as a right wing. Now I wanted to be on the right because on the right, I can cut in and, shoot with my left. And I said, so you didn't want to be on the left and crossing balls for other people to score. He goes, no, I want to score. So obviously a little facetious tongue-in-cheek sort of thing. But he's really a 10. And so, maybe we'll see a little bit more of him in that position as opposed to, Hannes Wolf, who got an opportunity also, in preseason. You saw him there in California and in Coachella.
He's talked about using Julian there, and he's talked about pushing Johnny Shore higher up the field, which with the emergence of Aidan O'Neill, and if he wants Johnny Shore on the field, that's where he's going. It's going to be twin 10s, or maybe he's an 8, depending on what's going on with Keaton Parks. As Chris Campbell pointed out today, Maxi Morales has played 93% of the available minutes. That's, and I can only remember one game where it was like the 70th minute, and it looked like he couldn't take another step. But every other game, I mean, he's finished pretty strong. And now we shouldn't leave Maxi out of the equation for support for Alonso Martinez. Maxi, now he's an attacking midfielder, man, and he's not a massive goal scorer, never has, but he scored like 25 career goals in 920 minutes, no goals, 2 shots on goal from Maxi. He has to do more if he's going to be in that position. So I don't want to leave Maxey out of it because, again, he's not going to – if he's like 6 to 8 goals. That's what we would expect from him.
Yeah.
But we're not getting that either. So that's where it's at.
I'd hate to see, where this team would be if Alonso Martinez got hurt.
I don't. So hopefully somebody would emerge and take the reign, and I don't know who it would be. I'd put Justin Hack up there maybe. Hack will score some goals for you.
Hey, he will because he's just like it doesn't matter where you plug him in. He'll turn into Cavani again.
All right, this Montreal team. Where is my notes? This Montreal team. I've never really seen such anemic statistics through 11 games. So just listen to some of this, Roberto.
Go.
They've scored a total of 5 goals in 11 games. All right. They have 3 points through 11 matches. They have 3 draws and 8 losses. So they're winless in their 11. They've been shut out. That means they've been shut out in 7 of their 11 games. They've been shut out in 7 of their 11 games. It's now look, they started out on the road, 7 straight on the road because Olympic Stadium, the roof is being repaired, and they would normally because they can't play outdoors in Montreal in February and early March, so or mid-March. There's still frost, so they've got to they normally go into Olympic Stadium, but that was not available this year. So 7 on the road to start the season, but home hasn't. They've lost. They're winless in 3 games at home at Stade Saputo. So, including their most recent game, a 2-1 loss to Philadelphia. So, this is, to me, it's the perfect storm. New York City, 3 clean sheets in their last 4 games, right?
Right.
And a team that can't score goals.
So let's give it a little context here, okay? So Prince Osei-Owusu scored a goal and an assist in the first match of the year, right? So Montreal, of their 3 points, 2 of them have been on the road. So we got to keep that in mind. But Giacomo Viglione just came back, and he had his first start last year. Remember Giacomo when he was playing with the New England Revolution? He had a goal in his in starting last week. So but that's going to change things a little bit around for them as he comes. So last year maybe they were a little bit spoiled. Remember they made the playoffs. They played Atlanta. They wound up losing in penalty kicks to Atlanta, who then went and beat up on Inter Miami. But they had Joseph Martinez on top last year. Now Joseph is out with Bruce Arena in San Jose, and Montreal, who. You know how New York City fans were complaining how New York City didn't bring anybody in and finally brought 1 transfer in? I was taking a look at Montreal stats. They brought 11 guys in. They have 11 new players this year.
Well,
it doesn't matter how many you bring in. It's who you bring in.
Well, they do have these certain tendencies, which I illuminate here in the early portion of this question to Pascal Jansen in preparation for this match. So listen to these statistics, which is pretty interesting, and then it leads into how Pascal expects them to play. Roll that one, please. These are Montreal tendencies. They're 3rd in the league in crossing balls. They're 3rd in the league in ball entries into the penalty area. I'm wondering, does that reflect your preparation? They seem to have tendencies in the attack, and then they've got the Pierce and Sealy, the wide players that have really contributed.
Yeah, the thing is, if they play with the 2 strikers or with 1, it doesn't even matter because once they have the ball in the wide areas, they have the tendency to bring it into the box immediately. So it's a very direct play style. As I mentioned just now, very aggressive also, in and out of possession. It's going to be a very competitive game, I think, and not looking at the ranking in the current league, because that doesn't count going into this game. Because as I said, we know what we're up against, and that's a very aggressive team.
All right, so a very direct game. So a lot of balls in the area. So that means Thiago Martins and Justin Hack. Hack leads the team in clearances. And that's both from midfield dropping in. He's got a good sense where to be in the penalty area. another reason he has to play. He's monumentally better in the air than Burke Risa, and there's going to be balls just whipped into the box all game long if New York City doesn't deny the service. So
right, which is so important.
Sealy is good, man. You know, he the Dallas guy. He's one of their new guys.
Yeah,
he's really good on the flank. He's a dangerous player.
I know that they like to attack down that right side, and we're going to see a lot, and so it's going to be interesting to see if, because of the way that Montreal plays, that New York City doesn't go with the same sort of lineup that they did with Cincinnati, and they do use Cavallo down on that left side.
Yeah, Pascal just doesn't have as much flexibility because of injuries in this one. Hack's got to be back there. Again, unless you go with Tanasiewicz as the third back, if you want to do a wing back thing like he did in another match too. So you're right, Roberto. And we have no insight as to how they're going to play.
No, we have none, and that's the fun part of it, because sometimes we do get the lineup in advance, and then we know. And then sometimes not getting the lineup in advance allows us to speculate a little bit more. And you're more of a coach than I would ever be. So, but it's fun to be able to do this and see the different things tactician wise, tactically. I can't even say it anymore.
Well, I would suggest
tactics,
Cavallo left, Gray right, and those boys, their chief responsibility. For Gray, it's going to be denied. The Pierce guy, he's the dude from where'd he go? Where's he from? Middlesbrough? Oh, I'm forgetting now. He's Wigan Athletic. He's on loan, I think, and he's got a really dangerous left peg, but he's the left back. But he gets into the attack the whole time. And then Sealy is the right midfielder if they play in this 4-4-2 shape, which they played last week. So that's the other thing too. But you've got to deny service. If you're not going to deny service, you have to win the first ball in the area, and then you have to clear the second ball or get on it. So to me, those are the key factors.
And Glenn, I've been listening to you, and I'm preaching whenever I can the importance of denying the service.
Heck yeah, man. We've seen too many. Listen, you can watch games every weekend and find players that don't close down quick enough and deny, or they turn their back, or they give a half-hearted effort.
I was watching Spurs yesterday playing Bodo, and every time that Pedro Porro wouldn't deny the service, I was just like, come on, you can't let them cross the ball. This is what they live on. You can't do this. Stop the service tactically. Thank you, KP.
I didn't see the game.
I did. I went down. By the way,
temperature? What were the conditions like in Antarctica?
It was 46 degrees and raining. It felt like if it was in London. So I don't think that Tottenham was too bothered by it. But I mean, they decided to play back and counterattack, and they did it very well. And they got out of there with a 2-0 win, which gives them 5-1 win. Very good. So I saw the game at my friend's restaurant, it's Cuban restaurant. I think I took you there. Yeah. Cuban food, Guantanamera on 8th Avenue and between 55th and 56th Street on the west side. So anyway, they have a big screen there now, and they promised me that they're going to bring down the big screen for the Manchester United, Tottenham Hotspur Europa League final, which is 12 days from now on a Wednesday at 2:00. So I'm going to go there with my friend Andrew. I'm going to go with my son, maybe some other people. Glenn, obviously you're invited. Hey, anybody wants to come on down there and watch the game, they're going to put the sound up and everything. Food's really good, and check the place out. Guantanamera on 8th Avenue.
Well, you gave him a good plug. Let's get him on as a sponsor for the podcast. Why don't we go down there and do the podcast live there?
We can. They have a stage. We can definitely do that. Oh my God, we absolutely could do that.
Let's do it. I'm all for that.
The only problem is that Patrick, Mario's son, who's like helped running the place now. Great guy, loves soccer, but he's an Arsenal fan, so I'm just a little bit weary of that.
Hey, before we move on, because I wanted KP put up a thought about New York City. Not taking them seriously, and that's I'm sure he's talking about Pittsburgh from the U.S. Open Cup. Can you, Jimmy, put that up? KP's comment, if you could. Well, you'll have to trust me then. KP made this comment. But the reason I wanted to bring it up, I know we're kind of backtracking a little bit, is Austin went down to El Paso 2-0 and then came back and scored 3 to win 3-2. I wonder if Austin kind of fell into the same sort of trap, and they were at home where you just come in and you don't take the team seriously. And the thing I would say, Roberto, and I asked this of Pascal, and actually this midweek loss might help avoid this sort of thing. Yeah, I kind of said, compare the preparation for a Miami, during the week, and, everybody's sharp, we got to play Messi and Suarez and everybody, to Montreal. They can't score a goal. They can't win a game. It's the human condition. It's hard maybe sometimes to get up for that game. But he said, well, we were taught a lesson on Wednesday, so we're all good with that because of what happened on Wednesday.
Do you really think they didn't take him? I mean, do you really think that they didn't take him seriously?
Well, they didn't play with intensity, so I don't know what the result of that was. But as Pascal pointed out, he's the guy that's leading the program, and he's the one that said it. As soon as Tanasiewicz went down and they were playing 11 versus 10, all of a sudden, that's when Fernandez missing the sitter. That was during the course of them playing down a player.
Yeah, he said that they raised the intensity once they went down, that they raised the intensity. I mean, that's mind-boggling to me, because how do you, especially for all those guys who aren't playing all the time, how are you not just like killing yourself here?
I get it. It's the human condition again. It's unbelievable.
But the human condition should be, I want to succeed. I want to thrive. This is my opportunity to do something and to jump somebody.
The human condition is also this. Sometimes you I'll never forget coaching my team at Rutgers. We went through the non-conference schedule, beautiful, and we're getting ready for our opener in the conference. We were in the Big East. It's Seton Hall. It's a Jersey rival, and it was a dud. It was like, and I took responsibility, and I'm not saying this happened with the coaching team and the team and the players, but we almost built it up too much, got too much in our head. We were, overthinking it, overtraining, whatever. And you wonder if these players that don't play a lot sometimes, and that's where you have to handle yourself. Just be prepared every day to go in, and then when you get your chance, go and take it. Whenever I get a chance to talk to Johnny Shore, that's going to be the one thing I ask. I say, you went into Miami, you make your debut at 17 years old against frickin' Messi and played like a veteran. So how did that happen? And yeah, you took advantage of your opportunity, and now look at him. He's starting every match,
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And that's what I want to see. You get a chance, even if, even if you're a grizzled veteran, but if you're not playing all the time, you want to play, go and, kill it and drag everybody up with you.
So you'll agree, I would think, Roberto, that consistency has been the biggest issue so far. Is that what? Could we agree on that?
Consistency, yeah. I think that and a lack of I'd say a lack of talent in certain areas, that especially on the bench.
Well, that's another matter. I mean, yeah, is there enough there right now? So I mentioned last week, I think I mentioned on our last show that Drake Hills wrote a feature on Pascal in the Black Players for Change, which everyone should go read because it's got some information that I learned about Pascal. And one thing that I thought was really interesting is, so Drake writes, Jansen knows City Football Group appointed him to win, and Jansen is focused on doing it his way. So, and then the quote from him is, we want to be consistently good, not occasionally great. So let's listen to this clip after hearing that quote. Go.
But that is our motto. That is our thing for this season. Consistently good, not occasionally great. And that puts a lot of emphasis on the consistent part. As well as I do, looking back at last season, the inconsistent results were there. The inconsistent play was there. We all know that is also part of having a young roster with ups and downs. it's part of what I have experienced now and what I actually see in real life also. The traveling part in the MLS has a huge effect. But those are all, I would like to say, excuses for having performances that are not good enough. And that's what we stay away from as far as possible, because we focus, like I said to you just now, on the things that we have 100% control over, and that will get us the results that we are supposed to get.
So I like that. I just like that phrase.
I like it too. I agree. And I mean, look, they're asking him to win, but at the same time, he doesn't have a complete team. And if anybody, wants to say, well, wait a second, I said, hold it. Because anytime that you have two goalkeepers on the bench, you don't have a complete team. And if you have a couple of injuries and there's still nobody to come in and take those places, you don't have a complete team. And then we just spoke about it before. What happens if Alonso Martinez, gets hurt? What happened? What's going to happen when he goes to play for the Costa Rican national team in Gold Cup and that team advances and let's say makes it to the semifinals? How many games is he going to miss? How many games is he going to miss? I haven't really looked because I don't know if, how much New York City is going to be taken off. I know that they're off for a while, hence why I'm going to Mexico on June 2nd to June 10th.
Well,
but
there's a game on June 12th and then not another one until June 28th. So that's the biggest break coming up.
Yeah.
In between. So,
maybe I can go back to Mexico.
According to Tom Bogert, Kai Kamara, at 40 years old, the second all-time leading goal scorer for MLS, is headed to FC Cincinnati to back up Kevin Denke. So there's a solid proven goal scorer, and that's perfect. It's a perfect role for him to spot start, and not very often, but also come in. He's so good in the air.
Come
and
off the bench.
A lot of times, if you're down a goal or it's level and you're trying to win, and it's a set piece situation, we've seen him in front of goal in our own games come up with huge plays. So,
and I mean, if you're going to start pumping balls into the box, you're not going to be inverting your wingers, and you're just going to have them. You want to start putting balls in the box. I mean, that's where he excels. 40 years old. I'm not saying he's LeBron James, mind you, but that's you don't see too many 40-year-olds in MLS that aren't goalkeepers, or anywhere in soccer that aren't goalkeepers.
Just a couple other notes before we go to kicking it around, Roberto. I would say you and I think you're aware of this, you and I recorded the same amount of shots on goal as Sporting KC versus LA Galaxy last week.
Yes.
But Sporting KC wins the game 1-0 because Maya Yoshida had an own goal, and they became the first team in MLS history to win a game they didn't attempt a shot. Not only did they not get a shot on goal, they didn't attempt a shot. They didn't, not even just turn from the halfway line and see what you can do. They didn't attempt a shot.
How bad are the Galaxy? Who, by the way, along with Montreal, only two teams not to win a game. The
only two teams not to win a game. And for the first time in MLS history, a conference has 4 teams averaging 2 points a game. It's Columbus, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and Miami through 11 games. First time in a conference that 4 teams are averaging 2 points per game or more at this point of the season. So it's pretty interesting. Top feeders, bottom feeders, and then those in between. Wow.
Hey, things get interesting for New York City because not only they have Montreal, then they have to travel to D.C. to play United on Wednesday. But then, I mean, you don't have time to blink. They're playing the Red Bulls.
Yep, playing the Red Bulls. And tonight, New York City FC 2 is playing Red Bulls 2 at Belson Stadium. Seymour Reed scored in the 7th minute, and the 2 team for New York City FC is up 1-0. It's only 8 minutes into the match. They kicked off at 7:30 Eastern. So,
okay.
Happen to have that one up, and Seymour Reed scores again. Perhaps a future striker in a New York City FC senior team uniform. We know he's been short-term loaned and has also appeared. He could appear in one more New York City game. I think.
And then if they need him, then they got to sign him.
Yeah, after that.
Well, they got a lot of GAM money.
Yeah.
Number 2 in the entire league as far as GAM is concerned. you saw the report, the MLS report that came out.
Yeah, the updated
and
report.
So there are 2 teams that have over 3.5 million, and New York City is one of them.
It's still a good amount of roster flexibility. So we would expect this, the summer transfer window to be active. All right, let's kick it around. What do you say, Roberto?
Do it.
Now, there's a guy who used to work with the City Football Group and therefore New York City FC in a way, who had a position head of coaching support. And what he did, his name is Kerry Boley, and what he did was he basically organized the staffs for all the satellite teams in the City Football Group, including New York City, so that Ronnie Dyla, Nick Cushing, Mehdi Belushi, I remember the first thing we thought, I think, was like, wow, Ronnie and Nick, they don't even know each other, yet Nick's going to be the associate head coach in essence, the second in command. But that is the way that was Kerry's art. He knew how to put coaches together that would work together, and then he would work with them as well. He also is very close to Pascal Jansen. He's the one that tracked Pascal. We talked about for 5 years, New York City has had Pascal on the radar. So this was no accident that he was brought in as a coach to replace, ironically, Nick Cushing. Kerry today was officially named Chief Soccer Officer of the North Carolina Football Club. And he's also the general manager of the North Carolina Courage of the NWSL. So he has spent some time in the States. And so I went on the presser today. You may have heard me on it, from the other room. I don't know if you probably were going.
Oh, is that what you were doing? I didn't know what you were doing. So you just shooed me away like I was some annoying bug.
Well, at that moment you were, but
I've done my job.
We can leave it at that. But I asked him, I thought this is, and I'm very much into the coaching side, but I wanted to know what his coaching education, his methods, what is he looking for in a coach? So he mentions Pep Guardiola. He mentions Gio van Bronckhorst, who he was an assistant to with Rangers in the Scottish Premiership. And he also mentions Nick Cushing. And there's a word here that he focuses on when he is developing coaches and bringing coaches in. So here's Kerry.
Yeah, well, the biggest one for me is curiosity. The best coaches in the world, the best staff in the world are curious. That's what I see when, Pep's been mentioned, but him and others, Gio, when I worked with him, it's around who are the curious people, the ones who want to learn. Cush was the same, someone that you know really well, Glenn, constantly curious about what else can I do, where can I find the next kind of added value that I can bring into what we're doing to be better every day. So I think that's the first one. And then there's the kind of the unwavering discipline towards what it is that you're trying to do. And then the final one for me is to stick with it, because so many will change what they do off the back of one maybe difficult outcome, like a defeat. It's too easy to chop and change things, when sometimes really the strength is in continuing to do what you're doing, because longer term, that's what's going to get you the reward. It's not always about doing things differently. And some of the stuff we used to talk about the group a lot, and I still speak a lot with coaches, is plan B is getting plan A right. We hear a lot about coaches they don't have a plan B. Well, if you're always looking at plan A, B, and C, then you don't have a philosophy in what you're trying to do, because you're always trying to do different things. So the problem is still the problem. There's multiple ways to solve the problem. And what we all have to do is find all those multiple ways and apply the right one at the right time to get more successful outcomes than we get negative outcomes.
I love that. Plan B is getting plan A right. And we know Nick Cushing adhered to that philosophy. And what's interesting about that is that Ronnie Dyla strayed from that philosophy and then won MLS Cup. Now, that might be argued within the group. That's an observation. But I think he went to plan B, which meant being more direct, not building as much, and doing things the way he thought they could best win games. And when you're coaching in the City Football Group, there's an expectation of how you're going to go at it, and the expectation is also to win. and there's a way that players are recruited. They're recruited to eventually sell in many cases. And so there's a lot you're dealing with when you're a coach in the City Football Group, but you're also afforded, the resources, especially on the coaching side, man. I mean, and the scouting. I mean, there's a lot going on too. So I'm not putting it in a negative light. I'm just saying that's the expectation. That's exactly what the City Football Group. Plan B is getting Plan A right. Roberto, you're muted.
Now I'm unmuted. I didn't mute myself.
All right.
As I probably should, but I don't. So here's my thoughts on this, right? I fully get what they're doing, and it's successful, and it's all great. But I always felt that the best coaches, have their philosophy. But at the same time, once they see their team, I think that they have to adjust their philosophy to the talent that they have. And you may want to play with a 4-3-3, but if you really have a talent that you look at your team and you see who's best and what's your best 11 on the field and all that, and it really comes out that you're better off playing a 4-2-3-1 or 3 in the back, 4-3, and then, up front, then you do that. I think that you have to adjust to your talent. So Ronnie did, and he won a championship. So good for him. I think you have to be flexible in this, and I think that if you become inflexible and it's like this is the way we mandate and this is the way we do things, I think that sometimes it may not be the best recipe.
Yeah, I think it's more than shape, because you can change shapes within the methodology and the way you're expected to play. But that's that's one for another conversation as well. It's pretty interesting. Every coach has their own way, every coaching team, and every club has their own way as well. Roberto, just a couple of other things before we break, because I know you'll love this topic.
Well, I got one for you too. So
okay.
Let's go.
World Cup tickets. So there's this group on location partnering with Major League Soccer to promote and sell official hospitality packages for the FIFA World Cup 2026. As FIFA's exclusive hospitality provider, On Location has appointed MLS and its 30 clubs across the U.S. and Canada as authorized sales agents for the tournament. Yes, you can go on the website, click on a link, and pay a minimum for a single ticket to see all the games at MetLife Stadium is about $9,000. Now, if you want to go, that's one ticket.
Yeah. How many games do they have at MetLife? Was it 8?
8. They have 8 games.
Okay.
Now, if you want to start upgrading into the greater hospitality, you can spend
seats.
You can spend as much as $73,000 a ticket. So that's what's available now. So like the general tickets are not yet on sale. So there's no way to get those yet.
Yeah.
But these hospitality packages, dive in, man. And I don't know. For the people that could afford the 70, I want to know. I would like to hang that day with the person that could afford a $73,000 ticket for MetLife.
Spike Lee will be there.
Could I be your friend?
Yes, but you're not going to the game. There's that. I mean, look what they're charging at the Garden. I mean, game 3 for Celtics and for the Celtics and the Knicks.
$600.
It was at least $600. It's probably a lot more than that. And there were some tickets that were tens of thousands of dollars on the floor and all that. It is insanity.
That's also in my kicking it around. Because I know you're a Knicks fan. So it's tickets are starting at around $700.
And this is resale, by the way. This isn't the Garden prices. This is already secondary market.
So it's $2,000. This was 2 days ago. Lower level tickets were $2,000 each. A sum
cheap.
A sum not dissimilar to the final pricing for Super Bowl tickets in February. So we got a Super Bowl of Game 3 NBA playoffs at the Garden. And you get to maybe schmooze with some of the celebrities. They'll all be out for this game, right? Everybody.
Oh, everybody's going to be there. There's no doubt about it.
All right, what do you got for me?
All right, so what I have for you is that Dome Torrent left San Luis, Atletico San Luis, at the end of the season. He and I had chatted, and he had told me that was going to happen at the end of the year. But what he was intimating to me was that he really wanted to come back to MLS. Yet, Chivas Rayadas de Guadalajara came in and said, "Hi, you want to coach us?" And so now he's in serious conversations, according to media reports out of Mexico, to become the next head coach at Chivas. He's demanding, according to reports, that he can bring along a couple of players. I don't know what those players are, but it'll be interesting to see if I get to chat with him on all of this. I'll try to find out what's going on. But having Dome at Chivas, oh my goodness, it'll be crazy. No, I'm serious. It's going to be must-watch TV.
Well, I mean, this guy has put himself into some incredible positions. I mean, Galatasaray, nothing's crazier than that, I don't think. But we're not as familiar with it because it's Turkey. But that's a.
Well, what about his experience in Brazil?
Well, then there's Brazil. I mean,
what was it? Palmeiras that he went to? Was it Palmeiras?
I think it was no. Was it Palmeiras? It was a nutty place. It wasn't Corinthians, but it was close. Maybe that's why. Yeah, you might have been right. Palmeiras.
I don't know. I just remember that. I mean, it was like the minute he got there, things were already volatile.
Yeah. So he's gone into some situations that have been pretty interesting. Well, that's good. My communication with Dome is usually I go into a wine store and I find a bottle of red, and I take a picture of it and show it to him and ask him if it's any good, and then he'll give me the thumbs up or thumbs down. So I talk wine, you talk soccer, and I've got one more thing here.
It was Flamengo. Thank you, Ariel Judas.
Thank you. Flamengo. That's right. Of course it was Flamengo. Oh, my God. Oh, my gosh. Because they play at the big stadium, right? They play Azteca. Where does Flamengo play?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Let me see if Ariel answers this. Ariel is right here. No, I'm not that big. Flamengo's the biggest club in Brazil. So I don't know if they play at Maracanã or not. I don't know. Yeah, he does play at Maracanã. Okay, so that makes sense. Maracanã used to hold 250,000 people, by the way.
I love it.
Back in the day. Can you imagine the traffic getting in and out of there?
I wish I was there.
Makes New England look bad, but makes New England look good, actually.
Wish I was there. As long as they're kind to the gringo, I wish I was there,
I don't think there's a problem with that.
Thank you.
I don't think there's a problem. But anyway, I think that Dome at Chivas, oh my God. I might have to get Univision again somehow.
Now,
although their home games are on Telemundo, I should say.
All right. Well, I do miss Dome. It didn't work out here for him, but he's a good guy. He's a good guy. So there's a couple other things here. I love these odd stories. So Mount Fuji, it's the tallest mountain in Japan. It's a 10,000 foot mountain. A university student, I don't have the name, was rescued off the top of the mountain because it's ice and snow, and he lost his crampons. And crampons are those things where you put on the bottom of your boot and they give you traction. So he couldn't get down the mountain because he didn't have his crampons. So he got rescued. 5 days later, he had to be rescued again. You ask why? Would he go back up there? Because
he wanted to go find his crampon. He didn't want to buy a new one.
No, even worse, his cell phone. He didn't have his cell phone. He couldn't find his cell phone, so he went all the way back up, and he nearly died of hypothermia. They got him off the mountain. This one was worse as far as his condition coming off. But I typed in cell phone addiction on ChatGPT, and it came up with a lot of things. But boy, if there's an example of addiction affecting the nuttiness of somebody who just got rescued off the damn mountain, and then the sign
Did
of
my name come up?
The sign of apocalypse is this. A Colorado fan is suing the NFL for $100 million, alleging that the league caused him emotional distress and trauma after Shader Sanders fell to the 5th round of the draft. And here are some of the allegations in the suit. Implementation of fairer practices in the drafting process to ensure that talented players are recognized and given opportunities based on merit. I don't even know what to say. A retraction of the slanderous statements made about Sanders, along with an apology. These are in the suit, and apparently it's a serious lawsuit. $100 million. So,
well, it's serious to the person who's doing it. It's a nuisance for anybody else. I doubt that that gets thrown out of court.
Intentional emotional distress and trauma suffered as a result of the NFL's collusive practices. All right.
Well, you can't prove that.
No, but listen, I wake up in the morning and read a lot of things, like from about 5:30 or 6 a.m. until 7 or 7:30. We get all these emails with all this different stuff, whether it's The Athletic or all these different things. So when I find something that I want to share on NYCFC Views Live, I know we're a soccer podcast, but we've got to keep the public informed.
We do. So here's the nuisance about that stupid suit, okay? Brock Purdy, the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, is Mr. Irrelevant. He was the last player selected in the NFL draft in his year, which was 3 years ago. The last player selected in the draft, he is now the starting quarterback for the team. Tony Romo, who had, for better or for worse, a really, really good career with the Dallas Cowboys, okay? And you talk about, a team that, is the focus of its sport, okay? He was never selected in the NFL draft. Things like this happen. Because, and we've talked about this a million times, scouting is anything, but anything, a perfect thing. It's quite the opposite. Scouts sometimes are horrific. Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks was selected in the 2nd round of the NBA. Every single team in the NBA passed on him, okay? The Dallas Mavericks had him and let him go for nothing to the New York Knicks, okay? They could have signed him to a contract for $50 million and then traded him. No, they just let him go for nothing.
Wow.
And he's Mr. Clutch.
They've had a tough couple of years of allowing players to move to other teams.
And losing their owner and their owner too, because Mark Cuban, he had made a deal that basically kept him in charge of the team, and then they basically said nah, and then they went over his head and they traded Doncic to the Lakers.
All right. Well, on the soccer front, New York City playing host to CF Montreal. Montreal winless through 11, so that's always a dangerous opponent. We know the one thing we could say about Montreal. Their expected goals are over 17, and they've scored 5. So it is a team. When Pascal earlier said, look, they work hard. They're not as bad as their record. Sometimes that's just coach speak, but the statistics might bear him out a little bit there. And they're in the top half of the league in expected goals. But the expectations don't always provide fruit. And, we'll see what happens at Yankee Stadium tomorrow. Roberto and I'm on the English, Roberto on the Spanish. We'll start at 7:15 Eastern with our pregame shows. Yes?
I have one more thing. So tickets, I checked tickets earlier today, and they were under $20 with all the fees paid. They were under $20. The temperature tomorrow is going to be 69 degrees at kickoff. So it's going to be a glorious day. I think it was 69.
Beautiful day.
Let me double check that.
It doesn't matter. Don't look it up specifically.
65.
It's going to be a beautiful day tomorrow.
It's going to be a beautiful day.
Or
Tickets are cheap. Get your butts to Yankee Stadium tomorrow, and let's have a fun time in a nice atmosphere.
And I would like everybody to tune in at 6:45 when Maddie and I do our live stream from Yankee Stadium, NYCFC pregame live. And we do a bunch of stuff there too, and give our opinions, set the scene, blah 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 blah.
Hey, maybe they'll put Maybe they'll put the Knicks game on the big screen in center field up until Knicks game starts at 3:30.
Yeah.
So it ends somewhere around 6. So at least people get to see the end of the game. They should put the sound up and let's go Knicks and beat the Celtics. By the way, as well as the Knicks have come back from 2 20-point deficits and won the games at the end, this series is nowhere near over. Tomorrow's game is so important. I think the Knicks really need to win it. So let's go Knicks.
Analysis, Roberto. 2-0 is the most dangerous lead in soccer, and a 2-0 lead in a best-of-7 series is the most dangerous lead in any of these playoffs.
The Knicks have won every road game they've played in the playoffs so far. They are 5-0 on the road, and they're 1-2 at Madison Square Garden. How nutty is that?
It's a nutty world we live in. All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, everybody. And we look forward to talking to you tomorrow about the game. I'm Glenn Crooks. There's Roberto Abramowitz. We're here all the time on NYCFC Views Live. Thanks.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.